Hey y'all, hey, it's JJ Conway. Welcome to Building Wealth Together, where our goal is to help you walk in abundance and leave a legacy. It's Wealth Building Wednesday, where we answer your money questions with style and grace. So let's go ahead and get started with our first question. I am recently debt-free. Woohoo! I am recently debt-free and would love to know what next steps to take in saving for retirement and investing. Oh, I love this. Okay, next steps to take and saving for retirement and investment. They don't mention any kids, but if you have kids and you're debt-free, 529 plan. Even better than the 529 plan that you're funding is a 529 plan that your parents are funding for your kids. Because guess what? Grandparents who are funding 529 plans doesn't count as on the FAFSA for their student aid. This is why, if you've ever wondered how all these rich kids are going to college I'm sorry, that didn't come out right. Okay. Oh, Lord, forgive me. Lord, forgive me. I get a little irritated about this because one of the problems that I had when I was going through my financial planning classes, like to get my certificate, one of the problems I had was learning all the tricks that the rich use to stay rich and all the tools and things that they have available to them that people like me didn't have available to them, and all of the resources they have to help their kids get ahead, whereas I've had to fight and claw for everything that I had to do with my son, like getting an IEP or 509, or is it 509, whatever the plan is that they put you on when you've got a learning issue, right? And I had to claw for that. But these kids, man, they just get the stuff. They get the stuff, and they work with each other to get extra time on their test and get all these accommodations. And I'm like, really? I fought for 2 years to get accommodations for my boy, and it worked. He's a great AB student now. For a while, he was a straight A student, but girls in football, right? But one of the things you find, okay, I got to calm down. I don't want to say it the wrong way. I don't want to offend people. But one of the things you find, you're going to find that you go to college and people have scholarships that, they're not wealthy, but they're pretty well off. And you're wondering, well, how come they got a scholarship and I didn't? And I have to work my way through college. Well, because their grandparents funded their 529. And not only do they have the 529 to pay for college, but the 529 didn't count against their FAFSA. So then they submitted a FAFSA and they got student aid. Don't hate the game. Don't hate the player, right? Play the game. So if you got the person who asks is like, I don't even have kids. But that's important. If you're debt free and you've got kids, 529. And if you can get family members that aren't reportable on the FAFSA to contribute to it, then let them contribute to it. When I'm a grandparent, I hope I will be able to drop a good $70,000 chunk right in there when the kid is born and let that bad boy grow. They'll be able to go to any college they want, and they won't have to work through school, and they'll be able to live in a nice place instead of with 3 other women who stink and have boys over all the time, right? That's a grandparent goal I have. Now, if my son is watching, it better not be a grandparent for another 20 years. Actually, that might be a little long. 15. Okay. And seriously, if you're debt-free, the next step after being debt-free is to really evaluate your goals, like we've talked about in many of my classes, is evaluate where you want to be and what your goals are. If you want to buy a house, you want to start saving up for a house. Now, you know what it doesn't say here? It doesn't say that you have a savings account. So that would actually be my first step. And in this time of COVID, I would really shoot for 6 to 12 months of savings, okay? I would shoot for 6 to 12 months of savings. And then after that, I would start investing. I would start investing towards your goals and saving towards your goals. So if you wanted to buy a house, I would start investing, and I would start an extra savings to go towards a down payment. If you really don't care about buying a house, but you want to live footloose and fancy free, well, then you could start investing even more so that later on down the line, you'll have the income to take you wherever you want to go, right? If you have kids, again, the 529 or a Coverdale, or both. If you have organizations that are important to you, you can start thinking about how you're going to contribute to those. Okay, but the biggest things is to really start putting a good 15 to 20% into investing, so that you will have something to retire with, especially if you have enough years, 20 years, 30 years to invest. 20 years to 30 years to invest, and you put in 15 to 20% of your paycheck, you are going to be more than fine. You are going to have abundance. All right. And so when it comes to investing, there's different kinds of investments. So there's all kinds of investments. Like I could spend 20 hours of every day for a month talking about all the different ways you can make money from your money, right? Well, I'm not going to do that today because I don't believe that all those ways work for everybody. I'm going to give you the 2 ways that I have seen universally that work for everybody, and that is the stock market and real estate. You might say, well, real estate didn't work for me. Well, real estate, there's 20 different ways to invest in real estate, even if you haven't bought the house. And if you go to buildingwealthtogether.com, you'll be able to see my real estate investing 101 class that actually covers all of those ways. Most of those ways you don't buy the house, okay? And so there's a facet of real estate investing that can work for your personality and your tolerance level. Now, I don't mind. No, I'm not even going to say that. I don't like dealing with tenants and toilets any more than the next person. I just like knowing that I have finances coming in, because when I had that second car accident in 8 months, maybe you guys don't, maybe some of you on there don't know, I had a car accident when my baby was 6 months. Me and him were in that. And then 8 months later, I had another car accident and it really worked a number on me. But if I didn't have my real estate investments and if I didn't have my savings account, my lifestyle would have really taken a hit. And my son, his lifestyle would have really taken a hit. And I wouldn't have been able to afford the expensive medication. You know, insurance covers some stuff, but insurance doesn't cover everything. And insurance will cover this kind of medication, but what you really want is this medication because it works better for your child. So what are you going to do? You got to have savings and you got to have investments, okay? But real estate and the stock market are 2 of the most stable investments you will find available to almost everyone. If you want more information about how to take advantage of both, you can go to buildingwealthtogether.com and you can click on the appropriate class for what you want to learn. All right, I'm 24, starting my career working for the federal government. I would like coaching on paying off student loans, credit card, and saving money. Okay, let's reverse all of that. Let's save your money, get you a good, healthy savings account, at least $1,000 or so. Let's pay off your credit cards and then your student loans, depending on which one's bigger, and then save some more money, and then we can work on your goals and your investing. And depending on what you're making, federal paychecks are generally pretty good, and so usually also have good benefits, but we can sit down and come up with a plan that will help you get where you want to go and get all that stuff paid off. At 24 years old, you don't have to stress out about, oh, I need to hurry up and invest all this retirement. I'm missing out on the time value of money. Yes, you are missing out on the time value of money, but I actually did a video. You can find it on my YouTube and on my Vimeo channels. I did a video about why you shouldn't invest in your retirement accounts until you've paid off your debt. I show it mathematically, okay? Now if your boss is giving you free money, of course you want to get your free money, if they're doing free match and all that kind of stuff. You want to evaluate that case by case. But for the most part, even with the free money, you can actually, most of the time, depending on your interest rates, you actually come out further ahead, paying off your debt faster and then investing in the market or in real estate, right? One other thing I will say about student loans, and for those of you who've been with me a long time, I promise I'm not going to get on a student loan rant. I hate them. They are the devil, right? But one thing about student loans is that I want to caution you on is be very, very careful not to fall into 2 of the biggest traps that people who have student loans are falling into right now. One, don't fall into this trap of I'm just going to defer, and I'm going to work for 10 years and then I'm going to apply for that program and they're going to just wipe it clean. Okay. Yeah, there's a program on the books. Yeah, there's all these people that claim that they're going to do this for you and do that for you. But like, what is it? Like 90 out of like tens of thousands who've applied ever actually got their student loans wiped out, even though they met all the requirements. Okay. So you don't want to plan yourself on that. The other thing I want to caution you again is if you have student loans and they are federally subsidized student loans, so Sallie Mae loans, right, or any derivative thereof, you don't want to refinance those out of a federally backed loan into a privatized loan, because now you're going to lose some protections that the government puts in place. And you don't want to lose any protections, all right? Then those protections are there in case you fall on hard times or something like that, and the government wants to make sure they get their money back, or the economy crashes or something like that. You don't want to fall prey to those schemes and scams to help you take money that's government backed and turn it into privatized, because privatized loans have no regulations. They can come up with any excuse they want to hike up your interest rate, and they are not bankruptable. All right. I feel a student loan rant coming on. I've got to just kind of rein it in. I'm going to rein it in. All right. I just joined FPU. What is this envelope system? Oh, I love this question. The envelope system, a lot of people actually still succeed with money by using the paper envelope system. What the envelope system is you basically take your paycheck and you split it out in all the different envelopes that you're going to spend in for the month. This presupposes that you have come up with your spend plan the month before, like you're supposed to, and you know what you're going to spend. So for example, my mortgage is taken directly out of my paycheck, but I know that I'm going to spend about $100 on gas this month. I'm going to spend about $300 on food. I'm going to spend, fill in the blank for other categories. So I take the $300 for food, put it in the food envelope. I take the $100 for gas, put it in the gas envelope. When I hit $300 of food, I'm done buying food for the month. Well, this one's more painful. When I hit the $100 of gas, I'm done buying gas for the month. The only way I can plus up those categories is to siphon that money from another category. And since I'm using the envelope system, I've got eyes on to actually see, oh, I'm pulling money from here and putting money in this other envelope. So it's a collection of envelopes that you can use to sort your money. And when you use a system like that, it helps make it real to you what you're doing. See, when I swipe my debit card at the store, I kind of feel it, but I don't really feel it the same way as if it was cold, hard cash. And similarly, when we look in the category, like one of my categories was family fund. And when I was $845,000 in debt, my category for family fund was $2 a week. $2 a week, I would pull, when I went to the grocery store, I would use my debit card and pull $2 a week, and I would put it in my family fund envelope. And I made a commitment that I didn't care how much my son begged or what happened, I wasn't going to spend more than that. Well, do you know what happened when I made that commitment? It's the same thing that will happen to you if you make that commitment. Doors opened up over here. Doors opened up over there. Agencies that never had free military discounts, all of a sudden it was free for military all summer. Places that never used to do free things for mom, all of a sudden they had free things for moms. You could do this and your child could play. We had so much free stuff that usually those dollars would add up over a couple weeks, and then I would take them and we would go to we would go to Chuck E. Cheese, because there was so much free stuff for me to do. Okay, so I encourage people to start off with an envelope system. If you don't feel like you really can walk around with all that cash, I know I never did. I'll be honest with you. I never did a full-on envelope system. I did a mini envelope system. My big things were paid like at the gas station. Look, I'm not trying to go inside that gas station. I'm doing pay at the pump and I'm getting on my way, unless I'm trying to get a drink. But I don't need that stuff anymore, right? So right now, I really don't want to go in the gas station. I just want to, it's COVID, trying to cut out all the soda and the junk. Ooh. So I'm saying all that to say everybody's kind of different in how they execute. I would do my gas on the card, and I would do things that I bought, I would do things that I bought that were big ticket items. I would do them with my debit card. I didn't want to walk around with $400 or $500 worth of cash. Now, a lot of people do. And this really surprised me as I became, once I became a single mom, and, because I had went through a divorce. Once I became a single mom, I realized that a lot of other women carry a lot of mad money. And I was like, wouldn't you be afraid somebody's going to mug you and they're going to take all your money? And you stop and think about that. Like, when was the last time you were mugged, right? Sometimes we have these irrational fears about money. But if you have the same irrational fear that I had, then by all means, adapt it. You can use electronic envelopes like the, is it called envelope? What is that? What is it called? Oh man, I just forgot it. Dave Ramsey has a new one. It's like Mint, but without all the ads for loans. They got an online budgeting program that you basically set up envelopes, and then every time you spend something, the app tells you, hey, you've spent this much towards this category, you spent this much on food, this much here. And when you get to the end, it's done. Mint does the same thing. I used to recommend Mint, but now they're so overrun with ads for loans and credit cards and things that I feel like, well, I really shouldn't send you into the lion's den on that, right? Every dollar. That's what the Dave Ramsey one is called, is every dollar. And it's free. It's free for the basic level. I think to connect your bank, you have to pay something for it, but I can show you how to do something about that. I sure can. It's called Lead an FPU class. They'll give you 1 year for free. Isn't that nice motivation? All right. So that's what the envelope system is. And the reason it really helps you is because it really helps you visualize what you're doing. Back in the day, I used to go with my friend to Walmart a couple times a week. We were neighbors, and every so often she'd ask if I wanted to come with her to Walmart. And every time we went to Walmart, I would spend about $20 on nothing stupidness. Like, I don't even know why. I mean, we were there for her to get whatever she needed to get. That didn't mean I had to get anything. But you know, when you're in Walmart, stuff just kind of like flies into your basket. And you're like, ooh, I need this, right? And so one day my ex did the money back then. Eventually I took it over. I took it over because if you're watching the video, I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but I took it over because he was tired of trying to manage money when I would spend it so fast. Because at my core, I am actually a free spirit when it comes to money. You would think, being a financial planner, I am totally the nerd. I'm not. I just want to have fun. Girls just want to have fun, right? And so he was like, I'm frustrated. I'm not going to do this anymore. And I took over the funds. And then the roles reversed, and then he became the one to spend all the money. So there you go, right? But the envelope system is really good for helping you to realize, hey, I just blew $20 on stupid nothingness, okay? And so you don't see that when you're just swiping your debit card. You feel it later when you reconcile your books, but it's not an emotional event in the moment. And that's what divvying your money out in cash, that's what it does, is it gives you that emotional moment of, I am, no kidding, breaking this bill, okay? All right, next question. Okay, this one I might need to do a little calculation on to actually give a full answer. This one has 28 years left on their 132K mortgage with a 4.3% rate. They want to pay off early. Should they refinance for a 2.6 rate with 15-year loan with 6K in closing fees, or just pay more each month like a 15-year loan? Just at first blush, $6,000 seems like a lot for what you're saving, especially on a $132,000 mortgage. But I have not sat down. I probably should have, reviewed these before we started. I could have gone and done the calculation for you. And that's the kind of thing I do for people that pay me. For people that pay me as their financial planner, I will sit down and run the calculations for you. And it takes time and energy and money. It's why I don't generally do it for free coaching. But in this case, when I see 6,000, that seems a little bit high, even though you're dropping your interest rate by 1.7%, but it's on a 132K mortgage. It might be in the noise. You're gonna have to calculate that out to actually see what you can do. And you can either hire me to do it, or you can go to any mortgage calculator and they'll be able to do it. So, in this case, if you let's say you calculate it out and it's going to take you 10 years to make up for the $6,000 that you paid, right? Well, rather than do that, you could just use another amortization table, one of those calculators that tells you, well, here's how much you have for your house and here's how much your interest rate is, and it spits out payments for you. You can actually generate those yourself. You can generate them yourself online. You can generate them yourself in Excel. If you have a financial calculator, you can do that via calculator. That's a little more tedious, but you can, right? But you can set up that schedule and just actually do it yourself. In fact, I think the last question was from somebody who was similar to that, because she and I spoke on the phone. Her mortgage was a little bit different than this, and she didn't have the details of the next one. She was just kind of looking into it. But yeah, you want to calculate that out. You don't want to do something that sounds good on paper, but it takes you so long to pay it down to where you were, that now you're messing up. In this case, they've only got 2 years into the loan. It's not that big of a deal. But for some people out there, you've been paying on your house for 15, 20 years. And they come along and tell you how you can refinance and you can go on this trip and you can take care of this and take care of that. And life is going to be great and you're going to have this payment, but you're going to be able to ride it. And then you find out that actually it's not as rideable as you thought it was. It's actually a pain. And it's like an albatross. Albatross, that's not the right word. It's like a big lead weight around your neck that just, okay? So we want to watch out for that, because if it's going to take me 10 years to break even what I had to pay you in closing costs, I'm just going to do it myself, and I'll take my $6,000 or whatever it ends up being once you subtract out the interest rates. I'm going to take that money and go shopping. Actually, I'm going to pay down my house, but anyway. All right. This one here is setting up their debt snowball. Right now, because of the CARES Act, most of their loans don't have any minimums. When that ends, most of them won't have any because, an IBR repayment plan. So how do you track that in the app? Well, I really can't help you. I don't know what app you're using. It's probably EveryDollar, because I think this was a Dave Ramsey referral. I get referrals from different sources. I'm pretty sure this one was from Dave Ramsey. I'm not going to scroll to that part of my spreadsheet to tell me where they're from, so that I stay focused and don't end off on another rabbit trail, right? But in this case, the very first thing I would do is actually make sure what kind of penalties you're going to have to pay, if any, when the CARES Act is lifted. So, for example, a lot of people were jumping on these loan modifications and loan forbearances and all these other things about, we're going to give you a break in paying your loan. And what they enticed you with was, we're going to modify your loan. But what really happened was they just said, okay, you don't have to pay right now. And when they said you don't have to pay right now, it didn't stop your payment from being due. So if you haven't been paying your mortgage since March, let me use one example. Your mortgage is $2,400 a month, and you haven't been paying it since March, right? Because you think, oh, I'm under the CARES Act, I can use this money for something else. Well, that's $2,400 in April. Let's make it $2,500 to make my math easy, okay? $2,500 in April, $2,500 in May, $2,500 in June. It's July today. $2,500 July 1. That's $10,000. That's 4 months. That's $10,000. When the CARES Act lifts and your bank comes in, they're going to ask you for that $10,000. And most of us aren't disciplined enough to have set that money aside during this time of CARES Act and COVID. Now, if you did, more power to you, because then when the bank calls the loan due, you'll have it. But at least this way, you invoked their processes and you put that money in savings in case something big happened. I get that, all right? But it was not a loan modification. They're just absolving you temporarily of the need to pay. But you still got to pay. And if you don't pay it now, those payments will be added up and you're going to have to pay the whole lump sum later. All right. So the first thing I would do is make sure that you're on a no kidding payment freeze and not some kind of forbearance, where when all this is over, those accounts that don't have any minimum payment are going to be like, yeah, you owe us 20 times what you used to. You got to make sure on that, okay? And that's And that's the next step that's the first step that I would take. And then I would make sure that even though the loans aren't having minimum payments, if I made sure that they're not going to stick me with some fees or an extra calendar issue because I didn't do things the traditional way, well, then I'm going to look at saving as much as I can. Again, 6 to 12 months. Sock it all in the savings, especially if they're not going to hold you accountable later on. Oh, that's the wrong word. Wrong word, wrong word. I'm getting tired, y'all. If your bills really are giving you grace and they're not going to just keep accruing your fees until COVID lifts so that you end up having to owe $10,000 at one time, if they're not playing that game, okay, and they really have no minimum payments, I would be socking everything I can sock into savings and then resume normal when the world resumes normal. And if the world isn't resuming normal fast enough, then I might look at other ways to make sure I am protecting myself. And one of the biggest ways you can do that right now is to save while you have an income. All right, next one. Let's see, wife and I are trying to assess finances, make a budget plan, get greater insight if you could afford a home. Oh, this is funny. Apps and digital financial assessment tools don't really work well for us as we're looking for a guide. Okay, I would want to uncover why those online tools don't work well. Because I mean, you know, apps like Mint and EveryDollar, I loved those when I had another partner that when we were trying to track our stuff together, because it would show everything and it would put it in the categories so that you could see what you were spending. Okay, if that's not helpful to you all as a couple, we kind of need to understand why. Because I can give you my one-page financial spreadsheet that a lot of people really love. That it's just a one-pager. It fits your whole year on one page, has a column for what your spend plan says and another column for what you actually spent, so you can do that, right? I can give you that, or I could give you my 15, 16 page tab Excel spreadsheet that has every different nuance on it. I can give you that, but if I don't know what's difficult for you, then I won't know how to tweak where you need to go, okay? And so the making a plan can be done any way that works for you. It can be pen and ink, it can be whiteboard, it can be stickies. You know, my very first budget fit on a sticky because I didn't make that much and I didn't have that many recurring bills. It was just rent, water, my car note. I had a note back then, my car note, and my gas and some food. Like, that was it. My life was so simple then. Maybe I should go back to that. In any event, you're trying to assess it, make that spend plan, and figure out where you're going. If it's hard to make a spend plan, what I like to recommend to people to do is to make a reverse budget. And so that's where you will take what you spent in your last pay period and log that in a budget spreadsheet and do the same thing for the period before that. And so what you'll find is you'll find differences in how you've spent over the years, and you'll also find differences in how the city helped or didn't help, or find how you paid a whole lot of money for these cards and not those cards. Like, you'll be able to track it out. So a lot of times people say in their mind, oh, well, I have this grant from the city, or I have this income from my dad, or I have this, and I have this, that. But when you actually put it on paper, it wasn't as much help as you thought it was, or you were spending more than you thought you were. Okay, so you want to just kind of do that, and that'll help you with your plan. It doesn't say here if they have debt or not. I'm going to tell you how basically I feel like you can afford a home. If you can afford a home, the home you want, with it only being 25% of your paycheck, and you can save 20% down, then you can afford to buy a home. Now, that would presuppose that you're already out of all the other debt, okay? That would presuppose that you've made some savings so that you have something for a rainy day, right? But if you can carry the mortgage on 25% of your pay, and if you have your savings already saved up and you're out of debt, then boom, you can afford to buy a house. Easy peasy. I want to thank you for hanging with me. It always makes me feel good when I see that people are on. If you have a question that you want to ask, you can go to either jjconway.org or buildingwealthtogether.com. Both of those have a teal button that says Ask JJ. You go in, it gives you a short form to ask your questions, and then it will send you to a link to book a no-cost consult, 15 minutes with me. I'm happy to do that for you, and I'm happy to contribute to your success. All right. That's all I've got for you today. Y'all take care and be blessed.
If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you subscribe at jjconway.org. Now go walk in abundance and leave a legacy.